taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. And today we are going to take a look at a few replays. The first one we're looking at is in the Dunkirk. Yes, it has been a while since we've taken a look at the Dunkirk. I do still really enjoy the Dunkirk. She is a great Tier 6 premium battleship. Anyway, we're on the map Shards, the strange map, right? Because it has two cap zones, the north and the south, well, northeast, southeast, or southwest cap zones that are a little smaller than we would normally expect, and to boot, they have a lot of cover in and around them. When I'm on this map and I'm in my British cruiser, actually I really do very well in the British cruisers on this map because of the islands that are in and around that A and the C cap. It makes it really easy to get in there, pop smoke, be unseen, and just dish out damage. Today obviously we're not going to be able to do that because we're in the Dunkirk, but yeah, when I am in the British cruiser I do enjoy it. I'm still sitting at the Leander right now. I think maybe two, three more games in the Leander and I'll be on to the Fiji, and I'm actually really looking forward to the Fiji. I think that is going to be an excellent cruiser at Tier 7. I have been enjoying the Leander. She's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I might keep her. I'm not sure yet. Not sure. Inching ever closer to the Moskva as well. We're getting real close, and I have I think 1 million more credits to save up for, and then I'll actually be able to purchase that Moskva. So I'm really excited for that as well. Anyway, most of the team, it does look like we are going to be heading up here to the northeast cap zone, so I figure, what the hell, I'm just going to follow the team. It's usually a good plan to follow the team. You really don't want to go off on your own, unless, well, even then, I was going to say, unless you're in a division and the division goes off on its own, but even then, you're not really on your own, are you? You're with 2 other people, potentially 1 other person as well, so it can go very well in those situations, but I'm not in a division, so yeah, we're going to stick with the team here. I'm going to try and help support the northeast cap while defending the middle cap. We can see the middle cap is already being taken. We can see the Mitsukaze there in the cap zone capping it. I'm not going to be able to do too much about them, but I can do something about some of these cruisers and battleships. So we see the enemy Omaha there off in the distance. There's 2 nice little hits. If I would have led the target a little less, I think I would have been able to one-shot that Omaha and really ruin that person's day, but whatever. We do a bit of damage in the few citadels that we get. We see the British cruiser pop up, coming to a stop here, right? The smoke is going, so hopefully if I can just get those shots off, maybe those will go in and do a bit of damage. It was a Tier 7 British cruiser, so we should be able to get some damage. Well, I hit the player anyway, and didn't over penetration, but still, reset the cap on that person. So not too bad. We do get a bit of a sense of how some of the enemy ships are dispersing. They do seem to also be focused on this northeastern point up here, as well as the B point. Now we'll also note that there is some token enemy resistance down there at the southwestern point as well, that some of my allies are dealing with. They just cap the point, but hopefully my allies will be able to work their way in there and take that point back while we are still fighting it out up here in the northeast. Moving around, well, out from behind this island now, using it as cover from the enemy battleships there on the port side of the ship, but also just trying to gain, trying to decrease the distance between myself and this northeastern cap, because I really do want to actually get into this cap zone, just to clear out any enemy ships that are in there. We know that there's at least one enemy British cruiser, and in fact there's the British cruiser there, slowly reversing, but if we look at the smoke we can see that the player is now moving forward, so we're going to fire some shots off, and hopefully those will go in and do some more damage to the player. Not as much damage as I was hoping for, just some more over penetrations. I wish I would get that lucky when I was in my British cruisers and battleship shot came in, but whatever. We can see the British cruiser took a massive hit there from my allied York, who is up here helping me out with this cap as well, and we're just going to continue to steam straight at this enemy British cruiser here, and hopefully we'll be able to take the player down. Very little hit points left, so we'll just let my allies finish that player off and find ourselves another target here. So we do see an enemy Colorado. We also see the enemy Fuso. The enemy Fuso is driving away from us, so not really a good shot on that Fuso. So we'll try and push up a little more here and see what shots we can get off in this enemy Colorado, because the Colorado looks fairly close to us. and as well it looks as though the Colorado might be giving us a nice juicy broadside. So if we can get ourselves into position to get some shots off, that might go well, but no, the Colorado turns out, so we decide to shoot at the coning there in the background. Those shots might land, might do a bit of damage to the coning, you never know. Some enemy ships are, well, rather the enemy ships that were up here at the northeastern point trying to cap it are now circling back and questioning whether or not they want to cap it. So this is fantastic. It allows myself and my allies to move in here and start taking this zone, right? We're going to start capping it, and then, you know, once we have this, see where we want to go from there. There's the enemy Colorado once again giving us a nice broadside, so I'm going to put some shots into the enemy Colorado. I'm going to turn straight at the Colorado. We get ourselves a nice citadel hit there on the Colorado, so that's not too bad, and do a big chunk of damage to the player as well. So excellent. So we are going to circle in and behind the island now that we can see the island there in front of me. I'm going to go behind this island, and then I'm going to push into B, and hopefully be able to count on my allies to help support me. We can see down there in the southwest that my allies have now taken that point, so that is fantastic as well. And we can see some enemy ships still up here in the northeast, still trying to put some pressure on this northeastern point. Even though the enemies have the middle point, you know, they're still not in an excellent position because they are so spread out. They're not, you know, there's no sort of concentrated effort there on their behalf to be able to push one point and take it, giving them the lead in points. My team is doing a pretty good job right now of defending the 2 points we have. Moving beyond the island now, or shortly, and we're going to queue up some, or rather get ready to get some more targets up here and see what more damage we can end up dishing out here as well. We do still have the enemy Colorado there off in the distance, but again, you can see the player isn't giving us a great shot, but it does look like the player is turning, so maybe if I can get some sneaky shots in, maybe might be able to finish off the player. You never know. So the shots go in, they look pretty good. No. No. Did a bit of damage, but didn't result in anything. And there we go. There's the Minakaze. So I really need to be careful about this Minakaze, right? Minakaze can easily kill me with some nice, well-placed torpedoes. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to not drive a straight line, and ideally as well, you know, alter my speed and try and go bow on to the enemy Minakaze if all else fails. We see a number of enemy aircraft there in the sky, and it looks like those aircraft are, you know, pretty much trying to take the A cap point back. I don't think anyone told the aircraft carrier that, you know, planes can't actually cap the point, but whatever. If that aircraft carrier captain wants to throw away some planes, let him throw away some planes. We can see the Colorado is still going, right? Still going. He's on quarter health remaining maybe, but we are going to try and do something about that. We see another enemy Fuso there off in the distance giving us a decent broadside, so we'll go ahead and take the shot on that player. We're still spotted, so we do need to keep in mind that this is most likely because of the Minakaze. I know that the Colorado there is in front of us as well, but the Minakaze is also still lurking around here, so we do need to still stay on our toes. Make sure that we're not driving in straight lines all the time. Go bow into the enemy Colorado shots there and managed to mitigate mostly all of that damage. And we can see the Colorado is going very slow. Now this is one of the great strengths of the Dunkirk here, is that when you do go bow on and when an enemy is pretty close to you, you can start racking up a lot of damage. So we see the enemy torpedoes coming in from the enemy Minakaze. I'm getting lucky in that I'm able to avoid these torpedoes without too much hassle at all. So we splice those, don't have to worry about taking any of those, and we're going to try and get some final shots off into the enemy Colorado here and finish the player off. We can see the Colorado sent shots off at me, did a bit of damage there, so I am going to start repairing some of that damage, but we are hoping to finish off the Colorado. No, not going to happen. We see the enemy Minakaze pop up. I'm not willing to switch over to the enemy Minakaze altogether. I'm just going to keep the player in mind, but I do want to take out this enemy Colorado. I've got my secondaries working over the Minakaze. I'm going to try and go bow into the Minakaze to avoid torpedoes. We can see more torpedoes coming in, and again I got real lucky there in that I was already in the turn when those started to come down. We see the enemy Colorado barely alive and on fire, so a few more shots go into this player and hopefully that'll take him out. It was close, but one of my allies finished him, so whatever. Player is gone, that's all that matters. In the meantime, my team that is, have lost the southwestern cap zone, right? enemies have moved in there and they have finally managed to take the cap. Not too big of a concern because we do already have B, and I'm in an excellent position to circle in and around to help support my allies who are trying to fend off these enemies from pushing any further into B. So that's exactly what I'm going to try and do here. We see the enemy Miyoko off in the distance, so we're going to launch some shots off at this player. Hopefully land a few shells, maybe do a bit of damage. The angle's not too great there, and no, I overshoot the player. All those shells miss. Crap. But the enemy Miyoko does start to turn and present a nice broadside. Now, some of the other ships that we have around here is some battleships, right? We do have an enemy Congo that we're going to have to concern ourselves with. We do still have the enemy Minakaze behind me, but I'm really hoping my allies will do something about the player. We launched some shots off there at the enemy Miyoko. Hopefully those will be good and end up getting us some citadels. There's 2 citadels on the Miyoko, so that's not too bad at all. That player's down to half health. We can see one of my allies just managed to take out an enemy ship there with some torpedoes, so fantastic. It's just the enemy Miyoko and the enemy Congo over here putting pressure on B that I am going to have to worry about. I know that there's enemy ships on my starboard side as well, or I guess my port side, because these enemy ships over here are on the starboard, but I am going to try and focus the Congo and the Miyoko. I'm hoping my allies are going to keep those enemies on the other side of my ship busy. There we go. There's another nice citadel on the enemy Congo, so excellent. We're going to start turning into these enemy players and really go bow on into the enemy Congo. The Congo is a pretty big threat because the Congo, you know, with a few nice, well-placed armor-piercing shots, the Congo can start racking up some citadels on the Dunkirk here, and it can quickly die. That being said, the Miyoko is no pushover, right? If I just, I'm going to have to completely ignore the Miyoko. And if the Miyoko captain realizes this and starts firing HE at me and keeping me on fire, the Miyoko can actually take me out as well just by burning me down. So really have to be careful and really get a little lucky as well. So we're going to go bow on to the enemy Congo here, and in the meantime we're just going to keep an eye on the enemy Miyoko. The enemy Miyoko popped out of sight, but it should be back soon. We do a bunch more damage to the enemy Congo and take very little damage in return, but we do see some shots coming in from the enemy Miyoko. Now this player is right now focused on me, at least attempting to get some shots on me and start to set me on fire, which is a pretty big concern. I do need to deal with the enemy Congo as quickly as I possibly can, not only to, you know, help win the match, but just also to prolong my life so that I don't have to worry about getting burned down by an enemy Miyoko. I was a little concerned here, and I almost started wavering. I thought maybe I should just go bow into the Miyoko, but it really doesn't matter. The Miyoko's firing HE, right? The HE is going to come in and set me on fire anyway. The best thing for me to do is continue to be bow on into the enemy Congo here to mitigate as much damage as I possibly can from the armor piercing that this battleship is flinging at me. So we put some more shots into the enemy Congo there, do about 5,700 damage, so that's not too bad. And as well, we're sitting on about 121,000 damage so far this battle, so yeah, we're doing pretty good, I guess. We still have the enemy Miyoko there off in the distance. We're going to target our secondary battery on the enemy Miyoko if that player decides to get any closer. Now I do have to keep another thing in mind as well, because the enemy Miyoko is now within range. I need to remember that this player can launch torpedoes, and in fact there are the torpedoes, so we're going to try and turn, and I was not happy because I knew I was going to end up eating one of these torpedoes. However, we can see that the torpedoes do run out of range, so thank God. That Miyoko player does not know how to read range. So the enemy Congo here is just coming around the corner. We get our guns off. There we go. Another citadel to the Congo. Congo is gone. Fantastic. We do have to deal with the enemy Miyoko now. We can see my secondary battery engaging the Miyoko. I'm going to try and get my ship turned around, and very same strategy more or less that I used with the Congo is I'm going to try and go bow on to the enemy Miyoko. Now this is mostly because the Miyoko has torpedoes and I don't want to eat any of these torpedoes. The battle is almost won. We almost have this, so I really don't want to die here right at the end. So we get some shots off. Oh, and then the battle ends. Didn't even manage to shoot them, but we still won. And it was a pretty good victory in the old Dunkirk. Like I say, nothing wrong with this Dunkirk, at least I don't find anyway. So 359,000 credits earned, 9,100 experience, 132,000 damage dealt, which is not too bad at all in the Dunkirk, 1,700 base experience overall, which put me top of the team overall. We can see how some of the damage has broken down there amongst the enemies. And then, of course, when all is said and done, I do end up walking away with 329,000 credits, a bunch of commander experience as well, which is great. It's always good to get more commander experience, especially considering the Dunkirk most likely is not going to be the last French battleship we hear from in terms of World of Warships. So moving into our next battle, you can see that I am in the Roon. Yes, love this ship, obviously. I was wondering, because I've been playing my tier 9s and my tier 10s a lot this week, and I've been wondering, you know, why am I seeing so many tier 10s out all the time? And then I remembered there's that extra credit boost for the tier 10s that's on right now, I believe. And it just, well, actually, I didn't even remember. Someone in chat typed it. I don't know which game it was I was playing, but someone in chat typed it. It might be this one. And it was just like, oh, damn it, well, I wasn't paying attention. So, well, whatever. Doesn't matter what ship you're in. I'm still going to ruin your day in the old Roon here. This ship is pretty phenomenal. Pretty phenomenal. I mean, it definitely has its weaknesses and definitely has its little quirks that don't make it maybe as good as some of the other cruisers at tier 9, specifically the Dunkerque. But I don't think it's you know, too hard for any of us to understand how generally biased you know, World of Warships and World of Tanks and these sorts of games tend to be towards the Russians. The Russians are always pretty much the strongest or overpowered ships going in this game anyway. I mean, those tier 8 Russian cruisers are amazing. It's just spamming HE all over the place. All over the place. I was playing the Chapiev earlier, and it was something like 21 fires. 21 fires in one battle. I think it ended up being like 95,000 HE damage, or fire damage. That's it. Not including like the other damage that I'd done. It was retarded. But anyway, we're in the Roon. So you can see, I wasn't really feeling going down there to the A point. There's not a whole lot of cover down there, and the way we had spawned in this battle, there were quite a few of my allies up here at the C point, so I just said screw it. I'm not going to A. You know, sure, I'm abandoning those allies, but yeah, I'm not doing it. It just makes more sense to me to group up with the allies up here at C and then take C, push from C to B and take B, right? That is my hope. Now, if this doesn't work, then there's always the hope too that my allies who are on their way to A somehow survive and, you know, do it for the team, and then suddenly we don't have to take C, and then we can take A and B. So yeah, you know, it could happen. It could happen. But I wasn't going to go down there to A anyway. I was like, well, I'm coming up here to C. Coming up to C, we'll see what happens. A lot of tier 10s in this game. We've got Montanas, Yamatos, Des Moines, Zhaos. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we have to worry about here. But I wasn't trying to get too enveloped in it, right? You know, you don't... I see it a lot. Or I hear it a lot, I should say. When people get into higher tier games, oh my god, look at all these tier 10s. There's too many tier 10s, blah, blah, blah. I try not to get too caught up on that stuff. You know, I'm just concerned about where my ship is and what my ship is doing. If my ship is in a good position, then in turn I should be able to do some decent things with it. I should be able to, you know, say block the enemy from pushing through a channel or set a few fires, do a bit of damage, right? So that's all I'm concerned about in this battle, just being aware of where my ship is and what am I doing. So right now, you know, pushing into the C point up here with some of my allies, just trying to support them, just taking a look to see where some of these enemy ships are. So we do see a pretty good enemy contingent down there at A, so glad I didn't go down there. We do see a few enemy ships up here at C. It's not too bad. I do have some allies, but we do note some of the enemy ships are pretty big, right? Like we've got this guy here, massive battleship. We have an Ibuki over there as well. We saw a Tirpitz in the background, so we've got some challenges, some challenges here as well. And I know it's a Yamato bow on, and I should be firing HE, but I just love spamming armor piercing in my rune so much. It makes my day. It really does, especially when I can do a crap ton of damage with just pure armor piercing. It really, really makes my day. But anyway, enemy destroyer is gone. Don't need to worry about that player, so that's fantastic. We see the enemy Yamato there off in the distance. I'm going to try and get some shots off before the player moves in and behind cover, and I won't be able to. We do manage to get those shots off. We also see the enemy Ibuki there off in the distance. Now, I was going to turn in and kind of try and put some pressure on B here, but I see the enemy Ibuki, so no, we're going to take out this enemy Ibuki. So we see a lot of my allies are also firing at the enemy Ibuki. There we go. Allies finish the player off. Excellent. C is now more or less ours. We have this enemy Yamato in a reverse. The rune is really good in a situation like this where there's a battleship broadside to you and you're fairly close. You can rack up some decent damage very, very quickly. I know my first salvo went in and didn't do too much, and these salvos are going in and not doing too much. So it's kind of a poor example. But if I was a little more on the ball with it, I really actually could have done some considerable damage to that Yamato there. Maybe about 15k damage in those 3 salvos. It's possible. But then I get a redemption, right? We see the enemy Tirpitz deciding, for whatever reason, to also sail in reverse in a straight line. Don't know why, but okay, I'll take advantage of it. So immediately start pumping in the armor piercing. We can see my allies down there who went to the A point. They are still alive, but they're, really cautious around taking that point, which is pretty good. I'd rather have live teammates pushing a point than dead teammates not even being able to do anything, right? So that's decent. We'll let them see what they can do, and down there at C rather, or A, sorry, and they're even capping A right now as well, so that's not too bad. We can see the Tirpitz continues his death march in reverse, although now we notice the smoke is starting to go forward, so okay, we can start firing forward a little, and I have been racking up a decent chunk of damage here on this enemy Tirpitz. My shots have been going in and doing them around anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 damage per salvo, so that's not too bad at all. Plus, on top of this, of course, all of my allies are firing in on the Tirpitz as well, which we can see, and doing considerable damage to the player as well. So hopefully we'll be able to take this player down before he sneaks away from cover. I won't be able to get any more shots off, but again, we do still have the enemy Yamato coming around. So there we go. We actually did manage to finish off the Tirpitz, which surprised me. I guess one of my allies must have got a pretty nice shot on the Tirpitz, and then my shots just came in and finished the player off. So whatever, I'll take it. We see the enemy Yamato, right? So I'm going to have to turn away. The Yamato is a very, very, very big threat, so, not looking to get too close to the player. But again, sailing broadside, going fairly slow, it makes it really easy for me to just start putting in the armor piercing, and even though it's a Yamato, I'm still doing decent damage, about 5,000 every salvo. So that's not too bad at all. And it's adding up quickly. I'm already sitting on about 56,000 damage thereabouts, so not too bad at all. My allies in the meantime down there at the A point, smarter than I thought, better than I gave them credit for. They managed to take that point, push the enemy back, and take the point. So kudos to those players. We now have the A and the C point. And now up here at C, you can see that we've begun sort of pushing the enemies back. So, we can start moving down into B and start capping B. In the meantime, hopefully my allies down there at the, oh god, I'm getting all confused with my points now. Anyway, my allies down there at the southern point, hopefully they'll be able to push to the north, and then we can sandwich in some of these enemies here at B and really start to work them over. That would be ideal. We see the enemy Yamato still going strong, very, very slowly anyway. Player is almost gone, so hopefully if I can just get myself into position here, we might be able to get some last few salvos into the enemy Yamato and take the player down once and for all. You can see my destroyers are also moving in, launching torpedoes, which is fantastic. The enemy Yamato again giving me a broadside. You can see shots coming in from my allied battleship as well. Enemy Yamato goes down. I managed to get one last salvo off with and do a bit more damage, so not too bad at all. We see an enemy Montana there off in the distance. Montana, though, is pretty far out there, so I'm not too sure what this enemy player thought that he may or may not be able to accomplish back there. So we can see shots go into the enemy Montana, do a bit of damage. We've got some torpedoes coming in now as well from the enemy destroyer there in front of us. So we're actually going to switch over to the enemy destroyer and help my allies take this player down. At least get my guns targeted. My allies take them down, no need. And we are now moving in behind cover against the Montana. So this is good. I didn't want the Montana obviously to just completely obliterate me, because that would be fairly tragic. So I am trying to play it relatively safe. You can see that all of my team, or most of my team up here at the northern point, we are now all pushing into B, trying to take this B cap zone, right? Even my allies who are down there at the southern point, they're pushing north to B to regroup with us, which is an excellent call. Just because we have that southern A point doesn't mean we have to hold it, especially considering we're now capping the B zone, right? If anything at all, that can just be a distraction for the enemy, make them think that they need to rush down there and take that cap back. In the meantime, majority of our team moving in on the B zone, right? So you don't have to keep the point. It's not necessarily always required, right? So we see the enemy American battleship there off in the distance. I get some shots off and do a bit of damage, so that's not too bad at all. We'll just keep firing at this player then to see and wait until something else gets a little closer, and then maybe I can open up on that player as well. My allies now managed to cap the B zone. I was really hoping to actually get into the B cap zone and get some of those juicy cap points for myself, but not today, it looks like. We see an enemy hipper there off in the distance, and it doesn't look too good for this hipper. It looks like the player is going to eat some of those torpedoes, or not. At the very least, though, player is giving a pretty nice broadside for me to start working this player over. I was really hoping for some nice citadels. It didn't actually, I didn't end up getting any, but still, doing some decent damage to the player. You can see my allies are all over this guy as well. Won't be long now. Hipper will be gone, and then we can switch over to our next target. There we go. Hipper is gone. 84,000 damage dealt so far, so that's not too bad. We do manage to get set on fire, and we do see the Izumo now as well. The Izumo is moving forward. It looks like it's at full speed, so I'm going to launch those shells, assuming that it's at full speed. And we're going to turn and head south a little more as well here. Try and close the distance on some of these enemies. And, you know, that's something, too, that makes, I think, the Russian cruisers really overpowered, is the range on them. Like, that Donskoy can shoot out to 20 kilometers. It's ridiculous at tier 9, and it can stealth fire as well, so you just don't get that in the other tier 9 cruisers, like the Roon, for example. The Roon has terrible concealment. With the Roon, it's all about making use of cover, constantly maneuvering to dodge shells, right? That's how you have to play the Roon in order to survive. As well with the Ibuki. The Ibuki has good concealment, but the range of the main guns is pretty terrible. So you're going to have to get in a little closer, and that makes things a little more difficult. Russian cruisers, no, don't worry about it. Stay at 20 kilometers, set things on fire, it is fine. So we do see that the enemy destroyer did manage to set me on fire there, but luckily one of my friendly players did manage to take down that enemy destroyer. My last salvo went into him and almost took him down, but just wasn't able to finish the job. We see the enemy Izumo still alive. We see some torpedoes coming in now as well from the indicator. These are from the enemy destroyer, so we're just going to cut our throttle and we're going to turn away from the torpedoes, and then I won't have to worry about eating any of those, because I really don't want to eat any torpedoes. I could survive it, but you know, I'd have to endure most likely 30 seconds of flooding, which is something that I just don't want to have to go through. The enemy Izumo is almost gone. I'm hoping to get some shots into the player myself so that, you know, do a bit more damage. Sitting on about 96,000 damage now, so if I can get over 100,000 damage, I figure that would be decent enough in the Roon. Make me happy that it was all armor-piercing damage, and then I can, you know, walk away with a grin on my face, feeling good about myself. As sad as that is. Shots go into the Izumo, but One of my allies manages to get the kill before my shots actually land, so whatever, Zumo's gone. Now we have the enemy Zhao. Need to be careful with the enemy Zhao, right? It's the last ship remaining. That last battleship, some of my allies managed to finish that player off, so it's just this enemy Zhao, and we need to be careful. The Zhao has excellent range, amazing high explosive, and as well amazing armor piercing. So the Zhao is going to see me, right? The Roon has terrible concealment, so the Zhao is going to see me regardless. I need to make sure that I'm just playing it safe, keeping my distance, slowly working my way towards him, and really choosing the time to as to when I'm going to, you know, really try and push on the Zhao and deal a bunch of damage out. You can see my Thotgor friend here in front of me is unfortunately not being that careful. It really isn't going to work out if you're, you know, if you're trying to charge a Zhao just full on from range like this. The Zhao is very, very dangerous. She will do a shit ton of damage to you and maybe even kill you before you even get there. So really need to be careful, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do here as well. I do have my allied destroyer out front. The allied destroyer is a Khabarovsk, and hopefully this player is going to keep the enemy Zhao spotted for me. In the meantime, I've switched over to high explosive because I figured the Zhao isn't going to be sailing broadside onto me, right? Most likely this player is going to be turning and, you know, giving bow or stern shots, so that's where the high explosive is going to come into play. Figures though, just my luck, I switch over to the high explosive and immediately the Zhao gives me a beautiful broadside. Oh well. Oh well, at least my high explosive are going in and doing some damage. You can see I queue up the old armor piercing here because I quickly realized, nope, I need the armor piercing because I want to get some citadels. I haven't gotten any citadels at all this battle. Still about 99,000 damage, but if I could get a few citadels, I think that would be great as well. We're going to push forward. We're going to use the island here coming up on our starboard side as cover and maybe push beyond the island. But then I was reading in chat, right, you know, someone's, you know, don't go off on your own and all this, and it's like, oh, well, this is true. This is true. Don't want to be a hypocrite here, Thotgor. We're going to turn ourselves around. We're not going to play, you know, the solo hero here. We're going to stick with our allied destroyer, and together, the allied destroyer and myself are going to work over this Zhao. We might not kill the Zhao, but we should still win the battle. We have the lead in points by quite a bit, so we should still win the battle. So there we go. Turned ourselves back around. We're going to go out, we're going to stick around our Khabarovsk here and see what we can do about dealing a little more damage to the enemy Zhao. We're not 100% sure where we are, but we do see some allied torpedoes there off in the distance. We see some shots coming in near the torpedoes, and there we go. Khabarovsk gets some nice hits on that enemy Zhao. That was really, really some nice torpedoes. I put some shots in, assuming those would be my last shots. No. No. Just always the way it works. So we're gonna have to get some few more shots into this enemy Zhao here before the player is gonna go down, and there we go. Shots go in, get the kill, and the Zhao is gone. Victory is ours. Not too bad at all. I mean, in both replays, again, the team was really good. So about 7,800 experience earned, not too bad. 101,000 damage dealt, 3 kills, 293,000 credits earned. I finished second overall in the team, which is not too bad at all. Our friendly Fletcher finished first overall, so kudos to that player. We can see how some of the damage has broken down here as well. And of course, when all is said and done, I do end up walking away with about 137,000 credits and got myself a nice commander point as well. So that gives the Roon Captain 4 right now, working on the 5th, and yes, I will be going Concealment Expert as soon as I get that 5th Captain ability. Anyway, that is today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Remember to hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.